What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of Drizzt Done Right. It's the podcast all about your favorite Drow, Drizzt Do'Urden. I almost said Drizzt Done Right there, Jeffrey.
That is the name of the podcast, though, and the name of our email, if you do, drizztdoneright@gmail.com.
So, Justin here, and in this episode, we'll be taking the plunge into Chapter 7 of Homeland, titled Dark Secrets, dim-lighting all of our favorite plot points, characters, and more.
And if you guys have been listening closely, you might have picked up that by the timbre of my voice, I'm Jeffrey. Since we're avid players of the Dungeons & Dragons tabletop game, we're definitely going to be discussing the chapter and how it relates.
Following along with the show is easy. Just grab a copy of the book, read the next chapter, and tune in every week. Excuse me. But remember that we want to hear your thoughts too. So make sure you share those with us via email, as we said before, at drizzdoneright@gmail.com.
Or better yet, come sit around our campfire and be part of the ongoing discussion on our very own Drizzt Done Right Discord. If the fire is too bright, let me help you guide you by pointing out that the Discord invitation is linked in the podcast description. If you can raise an interesting point about the chapter, we just might bring you up on the show. In fact, Roland and Trevor in our Discord have been pointing out in the Discord, I like to just, redundantly say Discord again and again, that how a lot of the names are pronounced and trying to help us get it right. And I'm going to need you all to keep trying because I am horrendous.
Oh, yeah.
But trying to get better.
I am too.
House Bainray! House Bainray! Baby steps, man. Baby steps. Otherwise, I'm toppling over, and it's just going to be horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. These a lot of these names that Salvatore gives us, it's just like, whoo, and you just kind of have to associate the lettering of the word, the spelling of the word as like that's the character. Who cares how you pronounce it? That's right? The character.
Well, and I probably should have done more research. There's a term for that, and I had a guy bust my stones when I used to work in the kitchen at Chang's, and he goes because it was hyperbole. And he goes, I was just reading that there's a term, and it's a term for people who read the word but never hear the word said out loud. So you think you know how it's pronounced. In my case, I was using hyperbole. And he goes, no, bro, it's hyperbole. And
hyperbole, like what the heck is that?
Right, like, how did you get that out of that, man? Like, what? And he's like, yeah, evidently there's a term in the English language for people who never heard the word but seen the word. And I was like, oh, man, that takes me back.
Yep, I do that all the time. But also, referring to the Discord, I know I brought it up last time, but people keep posting things, and it's just awesome. That show and tell channel that we have set up, I think it's called like fan art and show and tell. It's mostly just show and tell, which is awesome. But the posts that we're seeing include book collections. They include Drizzt and Menzo Baranzan themed apparel. It's just, they would make great gifts for any dungeon master. Just putting that out there, Jeffrey. It has
or spy masters.
So I'm adding these things to my wish list because they just look so cool. OOK-ish, who has since let us know what those letters stand for. It's one of a kindish. But he posted a Tier Bresh Academy t-shirt that I'm just like, oh, I would love to just wear that around and see who could get that reference, Like, I feel like I would be walking around a lot around home before anyone made that connection because I'm out here in Amish country. Probably no one would.
Look, they read a lot of books, so we might have a large Amish following and not even know.
But you know what? I just don't think that's the type of book they would read.
I'm saying that maybe they don't watch a lot of YouTube or listen to a lot of Discords either.
Yeah, probably that too. I don't know. Oh man.
So how have you been doing? How's everything been going?
Well, I'm here with my homemade latte. It was going to be a cappuccino, but I didn't quite get it frothy enough. My machine's getting all kinds of, has all kinds of problems. But man, Jeffrey, I'm starting my new job tomorrow, and I'm a little nervous.
It's a good feeling, though, isn't it? Like,
oh man, it's funny great.
How you go through life and when you're a kid, everything in front of you is like magic, wonderment. Then you get older and you're like, it's bills. Right. I've got to shave again. It's like, what is it? I once read it's neat that people are always like, oh, old people, they get old and they start forgetting things. They have mental cognition problems. And then
Uh-huh.
one of the sleep studies and the brain things that I went into as far as a podcast and stuff was talking about how like older people just have more experience. So
Okay.
they have more, RAM in their computer that they're trying to pull from all the memories and all the stuff,
Okay.
the terms that they've
Gotcha.
learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it takes them a little bit longer to download. And it's like time
Huh.
seems short as you get older because of your perspective. When you're 6 years old, you have no idea
You have 32
what's
gigs
coming
of
tomorrow.
RAM.
Right. Then you hit 40 and you're like, oh wow, I have such a vast archive that the next 40 years seems much smaller than it used to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been kind of preparing for that, and I got into a new game too. Well, it's definitely not a new game. This game is almost 10 years old. Shadow of Mordor on Steam. I've been playing it. Man, it plays
Nice.
so well on the PC. I played it on a console before, and it just I couldn't quite get into it. But on the PC, it just everything flows so nice. You're just running around Mordor, slicing up orcs and everything, and
Yep.
hunting down their captains. And oh, it's great fun. It's great fun.
Nice. I played that on the PC. It was a free giveaway game, I think, last year. It was
Okay,
nice.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, what have you been doing lately?
Watching football. Eagles
Yeah,
won.
yeah,
Going to
that's
the
a good.
Super Bowl.
That was a good win. That's exciting.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, not a whole lot, man. What do you say we fire this puppy up and get into the drizzt of it?
The Drizzt. It's the part of the show where we take a look at this week's chapter and we give you the Drizzt of it.
Now live and in color, as you can all see us on the YouTube channel.
Hey, yeah. I mean, we got all the other ones on there before, but this is, I
Now
guess,
we're aware of it.
yeah. So now when we start doing weird things, we're totally aware of it. Yep. All right. So this week we are in chapter 7, entitled, what was it? Dark Secrets. Dark Secrets. So what a fun chapter this week, Jeffrey. I mean, we found ourselves back with Massage and Alton Devere, aka the Faceless One 2.0. Now, this is 16 years after, or 16 years, 16 years into their little scheme that they have going here. And within the first couple paragraphs, we do get a sense that the past 16 years did not result in the most trusting and friendly relationship between the two of them.
Hard to think that they're not going to be the most trusting Drow.
Right. But I mean, they had 16 years together. You would think there would be some kind, but I guess they didn't kill each other, right?
Hey, it's a start. They did disfigure one, though, willingly.
That's true, yeah. So Alton somehow acquired a spell from some surface-dwelling wizard that allows him to speak with the dead. He had
They would think it said that an orc had stolen it and then resold it.
That's right,
like that.
yeah. And what they referred to him as an Orcan trader or Orcan merchant or something. I was like, Orcan? What is that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. I've never heard the term Orcan. It's always Orcish. So I was just like, what is that? And I look it up. It's like, oh.
Like, right. It's right in front of me.
So at least I didn't broadcast that on here. Tell us what Orcan means. So somehow he acquired this spell from the Orcan trader. He had intentions of summoning the spirit of matron Jennifer, his mother, to try to figure out which house destroyed House Devere all those years ago. Massage leans back in a chair and starts giving Alton a hard time for wanting to attempt this spell, because a year ago he tried something similar, enlisting the aid of an ice devil I assume to identify. I assume to further along his plot. I don't remember them actually saying what he was doing.
Yeah, we remember that they don't know which house is responsible for the attack on his family. So he was trying to figure out more evidence to the perpetrator of the crime.
Right. So I guess the intention was to use the ice devil in some way to figure that out. But anyway, that didn't go so well. The devil ended up freezing the room until it was completely black within the infravision spectrum, or infrared spectrum. Within infravision, it was completely black because it was just very cold. It nearly killed Alton and Massage. This is the first time where we get a glimpse of what this Onyx figurine does. that Massage took off of the faceless one. So luckily, Massage had that Onyx figurine because apparently it summons a mighty panther, which was distracted that ice devil so that they could make their escape. So I think that's the first time we actually hear of the Onyx figurine being used, right?
To summon anything? Yeah. I believe so. Before he just, it's an item of intrinsic value to Massage.
Yeah. So the spell to speak with the dead was in the difficult tongue of the surface dwellers. So Alton's first attempts resulted in mistakes, where he started it, realized he made a mistake and had to stop. And, when you're speaking incantations like this, who knows what's going to happen if you speak it incorrectly, right? So
I've seen Army of Darkness, and I don't know what happens.
Right. So Massage is back in his chair, just like, oh man, Lolth be with us, like
this guy.
That comment just ignites this argument between the two of them, but eventually Alton decides to just end the argument, return to the spell. He does end up completing the incantation, and then this ball of green smoke just appears, and out of it comes this spectral figure of Matron Jennifer. The summoned spirit was very confused. She didn't know who she was, let alone who Alton was. Alton responded with basically, "Hi, Mom!" And I love her response to it. She's just like, "I remember no child so very ugly."
Because he's the faceless one.
Right, let's not forget that he doesn't have a face anymore. So Alton replies, "It's just a disguise," and then he quickly looks back at Massage, expecting him to be like holding back laughter. But instead, Massage seems to be somewhat impressed with Alton's ability to complete the spell or something. At least he was looking at him.
Because he's a wizard.
Yep. Right, yeah. At least he was looking at him with some respect. So Alton starts to try to jog his mother's memory of who she is and where she came from. And as soon as he mentions that she used to be a high priestess of Lolth, as soon as she hears Lolth, she loses it. She gets frantic. "I must leave you. You must release me. I am not in Lolth's favor." And Alton implores her that he needs one question answered. "Name the house that destroyed Devere." She responds, "It was house..." And then suddenly her form started to contort as this smoke around her was swirling and changing into a new figure. This one looked more like a crooked candle, constantly in a state of melting and reconstituting itself. It was a Yochlal, which is a handmaiden of Lolth. Apparently, Alton made contact with Jennifer as she was imprisoned in the Abyss, in the realm of Lolth, and that's probably not a great thing. He immediately recognized his mistake here. The Yochlal scolded Alton for reaching into the realm and bothering Matron Jennifer, then proceeded to open his mouth in the most impossible fashion, and then just a crazy amount of spiders start crawling out. Like, how gruesome.
Yeah. I mean, with modern CGI, that would probably look amazing. But it's like when I read that for the first time in my head, just trying to conceptualize that is almost impossible, but terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely horrifying. So for a male drow to look upon a spider is blasphemous, right? And suddenly you have two male drow in this room with probably millions of spiders. So these two were, a little too creeped out with this situation. Massage goes to leave, but what the heck happens? The door changes into an image of Matron Jennifer, who has this, I imagine, just a wide smile as this 4 or 5 foot long tongue just kind of licks across his face. What the heck? This is some horrible dream that's going on here.
Well, that's where you realize, in that abyss, there's probably not a whole lot of sandy beaches and palm trees. It's if this is what projects into our world or the Drow world,
right? Just imagine what the actual abyss is like. So Massage turns around to see if Alton saw that same thing to make sure he's not going crazy. But before he can get confirmation, he sees Alton dropping a fireball at his feet. Which
Shout out to our party member, Calic, who would totally just fireball everything.
yeah, but that was using the Wand of Wonder. That was totally by accident. But he's willing to risk it when everyone's standing so close. But anyway, so they both end up surviving the ordeal. You know, at least Massage is naked and hairless apparently, but they both survive, right? Massage is wishing he had killed Alton back when he was stuck in the Faceless One's web.
Yep.
So he goes back to his room and leaves Alton by himself. So the rest of the chapter is with a lone Alton who is stuck reflecting on the last 16 years and basically wondering what's going to happen when Massage graduates, and how long will it be until Alton has to continue with this facade, and how he's just stuck in his own prison in this. He can't, he's so hopeless. His future is just so hopeless.
No, and it's kind of amazing, like, when you think about it, like, it sounds like a long time, right? Oh, the 16 years that Alton has had to deal with this. But it really speaks towards his impulsivity because, I mean, Drow lived to be, like, say, 700 years.
Right.
And so this 16 years of dealing with Massage is really a drop in the bucket to, circle back on the length of life perspective we hit earlier. Yeah. And, there's Alton like, oh, it's hopeless. What's going to happen? I can't get, like, relax, bro.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine.
Okay.
Well, not fine, but it's going to move on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Fine, we don't know. We'll see.
Right? Speaking of moving on, though, we're going to roll into the dim light reel. The dim light reel is where we cast darkness on our favorite parts of the chapter and dim light all of our favorite characters, events, descriptions, or more. And there's two that really jumped out to me in this chapter.
Oh, there were so many.
I mean, like the Paramount 2, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And one you took and is one of my favorites. And the other one, I was like, I'm totally intrigued. You brought up the Ice Devil in this chapter. And it's like, you know what? Let me just mention him. And then I kind of got lost in the sauce when it came to it, right? So what I did is, I dove into it. And they have a name called Gel-Ugons.
Gel-Ugons.
Yeah, right? I had to look it up because what is the word? Inspiration to actually figure out how to properly say these words. I was like, sure, let me click that, put the phonetic in there. It is Gel-Ugons. Gel-Ugons. Also called Ice Devils, which is a lot easier to say. They led the infernal legions of the Nine Hells. They were cold-hearted commanders that despised weakness and saw frailer devils as entirely expendable. They're blue and white insectile bipeds that are about 10.5 to 12 feet high, weighing in around 700 pounds. So, like, if you think about that for a second, in the world of the Drow, they were like 4.5, 5 feet tall. Right. When he summoned that, it must have been like having an RV parked in your living room.
Yeah.
If that's not terrifying enough, their hands and feet ended in claws. Like, the thick tails are surrounded by spikes. They also sport a cool set of antennae, sharp mandibles, and multifaceted eyes. It's definitely going to make you look twice when it pops in. Yeah. Their hatred for weakness, though, would explain why the one that Alton summoned did not respond too kindly, because they see inferior creatures as outlets for their frustration. So they where they come from, when they get looked down on, they turn around and take it out on the ones that below them, because it all rolls downhill. Their desire for the power held by the pit fiends is what makes them extremely loyal and imbues them with a crippling fear of making mistakes. They scheme to obtain souls for their masters, but avoid complex plans and try to delay the results, like, the souls that they capture, until they're promoted. They're like, well, until you make me mid-management level, not giving you any souls. They're savage warriors, genetic instruments of combat with all the pointy ends. But they're also surrounded by an aura of numbing cold, particularly around the tail. That slows down those that they struck. Intriguingly, they're also known to freely exude an aura of fear that causes most to run in terror. They also slowly regenerate when
Ooh.
not harmed by good aligned spells or weapons. And so I'm thinking of this as a party member, like
Can you chop an arm off or a limb off and
it
it
would
comes
then
back?
regrow. Yes,
Ooh.
right? They can fly,
Oh,
just to
that's
make
terrifying.
it even worse. They manipulate colds in various ways and create ice walls. And then when they're killed, if it's, again, not
Yep.
enough, they dissipate into dangerously frigid air. So if you manage to slice it down, you've still got to survive the cold blast that's coming.
Ooh,
They're,
man.
they're most commonly found in Cania. It's the 8th layer of the 9 hells of Beator, which is a relentless realm of seemingly living cold. And that's where I had to stop my research because I just kept going. And it was like,
Right.
there's 9 layers of hell. The 8th one's the living layer of cold. And so it's not all just these fiery, tormented, pit fiends that you hear about.
Right.
I was like, man, I thought like, Icewind Dale had some cold up in Luscor and stuff like that. But
Right.
no.
No.
Like evidently the 8th layer is what you would picture, like the flaming pits of hell,
Right.
but frigid ice, Arctic cold. And these things are just like normal dudes in that realm as
Right.
far as like all the cold. But when you bring them into our world, like the cold, they get the ice walls, they pop, they destroyed all that alchemic equipment inside of Alton the Massage's place. Like they're a complete terror.
Yeah. Yeah.
How bad must that realm be? I'm not checking. I'm not going there. Don't send me tickets. I'm good.
Now, see, like, I remember I had you guys fight an ice devil, but that was, I think we were on the first level of the 9 hells. So
Yeah.
I think I kind of misplaced him, but it was, that was...
They can go anywhere.
I
That
guess,
just
technically.
seems to be their, where they're
Well,
most commonly found, a
of
high
course,
demographic.
Right, because it's a frozen wasteland rather than like a lava world sort of thing. But,
Right?
all right. Well, cool. My dim light for this week has to do with... this chapter was a lot of fun, like you were saying. There were so many things to take from, but the one thing that I want to dim light was that calm after this crazy storm. We had so many things happening within this chapter, but then after all that, everything just calmed down. Alton was sitting by himself, and he just starts to wonder, just what is there to come? Perhaps I'll be killed by another student, just like I killed the Faceless One. Maybe that's the fate of the Faceless One, to secretly be replaced by a student every so many centuries. How long until the Academy starts to get suspicious of this, right?
It's like a vampire lore in our current world, right? Except that this one would be like, I graduated, acid bath,
Right.
I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
10,000 years that guy with the messed up face has been in the room.
Exactly. Like, eventually, like, how long would it take for them to recognize that the Faceless One is living too long? And anyway, Alton continues, just, how long will I survive? He just turned 70, which is probably, like, I don't know how long specifically, like, if a Drow had access to, like, really good health care, they were never going to get stabbed in the back. Like, I don't know what the exact, like, or roundabout expected age is of a Drow, but I know Matron Bain Ray, she's what, 700 some? Or no, she was even more. She was like 1,000 some, wasn't she?
I think that at least the matrons that they talked about or referenced, it was around like 700 years.
Right.
Obviously, you have people who just genetically are blessed and going to live longer.
Right.
But like Jennifer Bain Ray was like so much older that like her eyelids were like, too old to open by themselves. Like
she had a drow behind her just lifting up the eyes every once in a while.
Right. This is my eyelid grabber.
So yeah, he's probably only lived about 1/10 of his life, Alton, and is now wondering just how long until he's going to be driven mad. He has no house. All he has is Massage. And that isn't saying much. I feel like Massage would turn against him pretty quickly. Massage has a house to back him, So, anyway, Alton ends his scene by looking over Menzo Berenzon, thinking about each house individually. Basically like, you could be it. You could be it. You could be it. Just trying to figure out, just wondering, like, knowing.
Like a macabre Oprah. You get a car. You get a car.
He was right one of those times, you know?
There's only 63 possibilities. He's going to get it eventually.
So he's just hell-bent on this figuring out which house it was, right? Alton lost everything 16 years ago. He doesn't seem to have found any new purpose in his life. Now he's a master wizard of Sorcerer, but that doesn't seem to have ignited any new ambitions in him. He's not just like, well, this is just my life. I'll do the best I can. No, he is just focused on vengeance. That's what's really, it's the only reason why he continues to breathe. So,
which is saying something for the Drow, because they are filled with like hatred, vengeance, and like trying to go up the ladder of station. And then there's Alton, who is like now so consumed by it that it literally takes up every waking hour.
Yeah. So this kind of had me thinking that, Alton, he's a pretty good bad guy. Not saying that he's a good person, but his motives make sense. And, excuse me. So when the main characters find out the real motives of the bad guy, and it causes them to rethink what they're fighting for, that just makes for a great story. So thinking ahead about this story, what's going to happen when Drizzt fully realizes Alton's motivation? He doesn't even know about Alton at this point. He doesn't know about any of that. He doesn't know that there's any kind of conflict building up at all. So when this all comes to... Sorry, what?
Drizzt has still not even been able to raise his eyes fully for his whole life, let alone understand the intricacies of Drow culture.
Right. So when this all comes to light for Drizzt, where's he going to stand? I mean, his family did do a terrible thing. Maybe not in all Drow's eyes, I guess, but he would totally understand Alton's fury. But Drizzt had no part of it and probably wouldn't have wanted to be a part of it if he were alive at the time. So, but if it didn't happen, Drizzt wouldn't be alive either, right?
Yeah, it's like a catch-22. Yeah.
So
that's neat.
Yeah. So
now, before we go too far to the next subject, would that make Alton a lawful evil alignment? Because his motives, you understand them, and they make sense. They may be evil, but he's following his own
set of rules. Yeah, his own. Yeah. I mean, you could probably.
Because he wouldn't be chaotic evil.
No.
There is a method to his madness. I don't think would be neutral evil either, right?
No, it seems pretty lawful. And if you are yourself killing something that is evil, does that make him lawful good?
I mean, he could totally lose his alignment from his divinity, right? From Lolth. That's neat. Yeah. If Alton's dungeon master is listening, you could totally take his alignment. Speaking of this, since we're getting a little into the D&D, why don't we just go ahead and do the whole thing? We'll delve right into the dungeon. The Dungeon Delve is the part of the show where we link this chapter with our favorite tabletop role-playing game, Dungeons & Dragons.
Whoop, whoop.
So for me, I wanted to delve into Speak to the Dead, because I wanted to know how you can commune with the dead, since it was a major part of this chapter. When I looked through the Roll20 compendium, the closest spell I found was called Speak with Dead. For this spell, you need Burning Incense, and it lasts about 10 minutes, which would be 60 rounds of action. Seems like plenty of time in order to get all the information that you'd need. You got 60 actions to be like, hey, excuse me, pay attention. For this spell, you need to be a bard or a cleric.
Oh, interesting.
Seeing this makes sense that Massage would feel uneasy with the faceless Alton trying to cast the spell, since he's not really a cleric. But the closest thing that they've really had to a cleric in that pinch. So they wing it. So for me, the biggest difference I could find between a cleric and a wizard like Alton and an actual cleric is that clerics are divine casters, whereas wizards are arcane casters. This would mean that clerics, especially of Lolth, would be a good deal more comfortable working with the undead than a wizard would. Clerics deal with their divinity, and wizards are a bit more apt to be studying from a book, but not understand the intricacies per se between the spell and how it actually works. Which I thought was neat when they referenced that, like, Alton can't really pronounce the script. You know, much like me, when I see the names.
It's very difficult to speak Undercommon when we just speak Common, Jeffrey.
Right? So I was thinking about that you had mentioned, like, it's that weird interaction, like, well, they're trying it. Yeah, so he tries to summon things, but he's not a cleric. Clerics do the summoning, but you can't just walk out and grab a cleric and be like, hey, bud, I need you to keep a secret. Come here. We need you to summon a deity real fast. I need an undead person. To speak to the dead, you need to grant a semblance of life and intelligence to a corpse of your choice within a range of 10 feet, allowing it to answer the questions you pose. So it's a little different straight out of the gate. I couldn't find a matching spell because they didn't have a corpse just chilling. They summoned the spectre.
Right. Oh, that's true.
So the corpse must still have a mouth.
Okay.
And cannot be undead. So it has to have, a working jaw to speak back to you.
Or else it's just going to be, oh, yeah.
Yep. And it can't be undead because then you're not animating it. It's undead. It's moving. A neat caveat of the spell is that it fails if the corpse was the target of this spell within the last 10 days. So you can't just keep using the same body. You got to have like a handy morgue nearby if you want to constantly communicate.
No, that makes a lot of sense because I know in watching the dungeon run, you said that only cleric and bard could cast this, but they did some homebrew on the dungeon run, but in season 1, the warlock cast this spell a couple times.
Neat.
Yeah.
Maybe there's was it the same spell?
It was the same exact spell. Maybe there's like a subclass within Warlock that's just like, hey, you can choose any. In fact, I think there is, where it's like you can choose any spell from this list or that list. Right. He didn't multi-class, but there's like a subclass within Warlock, from what I remember. I didn't look into it too much, but where it's just like, hey, you can choose any spell you want. And maybe that's where he got this. But I always associate it with a Warlock spell because of that. But yeah.
You get to ask 5 questions. The corpse only knows what it knew in life, and it only speaks the languages that it knew when it was alive. So you can't summon, the spirit of a dragon if you don't speak dragon.
I guess you can, but you just won't be able to understand it.
Right. You're not going to magically understand language unless you have the spell, right? Yeah. So the answers are usually brief, cryptic, or repetitive, and the corpse is under no compulsion to tell you the truth.
Right.
I was like, so if you're hostile or the spirit recognizes you as an enemy, tough luck.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to tell you the truth.
Right.
I was like, so, it's kind of like torture, right? Like, yeah, you're getting answers, but you don't know if it's a real answer. They might just be stopping themselves from torture.
Yeah.
And ironically, when they try to speak with Jennifer, she is being tortured because that's what that's
Yochal.
That's what he's upset about, is that they stopped her they interrupted her torment and torture.
Okay.
I was like, because they're the handmaidens of Lolth, so they're probably over there exerting the torture upon her, and then suddenly you turn around and Jennifer's going, why is Jennifer go, what are these people doing with my charge? Come here. And he just pops up like,
like, oh no. It's like you just got caught out in the hallways during class.
The spell animates the spirit into the corpse, not the soul.
Right.
So it doesn't learn anything new, and it cannot speculate about future events.
Right.
I found that to be pretty neat. And again, everything we read is not going to marry up seamlessly with the D&D, and especially now because 5e is not what they were writing at the time.
Of course, yeah.
It's the closest I could get. And I thought it was really cool to see that the little differences.
Yeah, but a homebrew opportunity there, make it a slightly higher level spell, and then you would be able to be like, you don't need the corpse, but hey, you can summon it from wherever the spirit is now. Or the other thing I wanted to say was, as far as the questions go, be careful with your yes or no questions. Just like,
you mean like a genie where you're like, I didn't mean to wish that. Shoot. Whoops.
Or if it's just like, you need to find the location of something, and then you ask like, do you know where this is? Yes.
That's one question.
They answered the question. So you just have to be careful with that. But speaking of the Yochlal basically interrupting the Speak with the Dead, that was my dungeon delve. So I want to talk more about that Yochlal. So again, while Alton was talking with this spectral matron Jennifer, his spectral mommy, this Yochlal, a handmaiden of Lolth, interrupts and ends the communication. Now, I've been DMing for about 9 years now, and I remembered seeing the Yochlal in the monster manual and thinking it looked more like a rotting tree. I did read this book since I got the monster manual, before now that is, and I was surprised to read back then that it was more like a waxy creature that's constantly in a state of melting and building itself back up, like I said in the Drizzt. So this amorphous characteristic results in this creature being able to take on a few different forms. It can be its waxy looking self, it can reconstruct itself into a giant spider, or as a female drow. So Yochlals first made an appearance in the D&D world back in 1980 in a first edition AD&D module titled Queen of the Demon Web Pits.
That sounds really cool.
Which I think the Demon Web Pits is that the layer of the abyss? I should have looked into it. I'm pretty sure that's the layer of the abyss that Lolth is in, like the bottom layer. I think so. Okay. I could be wrong. The basic plot of the module is for players to go into the abyss to defeat Lolth herself. So obviously this is not a level 1 module. It was apparently designed to be the last of a series of 7 modules, possibly 7 including this one. I think this one was the 7th. So from what I could tell, it was the climax of the Giant series, which had 3 modules, and the Drow series, which had 3 modules. So I'm pretty sure this was the 7th. So, I mean, Jeffrey, looking into these AD&D modules really makes me want to try these sometime. I know the game is like totally different than 5e, right?
Right.
People always say 5e is a good place for beginners. But
yeah, I just remember horror stories of early campaigns where people would be like, we had to do a lot of math to figure out, like, if you cast fireball, what's the size of the cavern? How's the height, the width, and the depth? And it's like, I thought 5e does it for me. I just push and click.
Right, exactly. And what is it? What was I going to say? I just know that the AC system, the armor class system, is sort of reversed, where the lower your AC, the harder you are to hit. Which
makes sense.
Which, I mean, like, it could work, but that alone would just mess with my head after playing 5e for so long.
That's like sometimes you just want to go back and play on an old gen console.
Oh man, which I play on all the time.
Right?
So in 5e, of course, it could have been different it would be very different in other D&D versions, editions. That's the word I'm looking for. In 5e, the demon has a challenge rating of 10, which he's boasting an armor class of 15, which isn't ridiculously high. I think the Ice Devil was 18, so that's pretty high. He has 136 HP, damage resistance to cold, fire, and lightning, as well as your basic non-magical weapon damage, so slashing, piercing, bludgeoning, so resistance to all those. One Yochlal would be a near-deadly encounter for a group of 5 level 6 adventurers, which I did that on purpose, because currently our campaign, Jeffrey, everyone's level 6, and I'm just like,
Oh, I see what you did there.
So, and that's according to the official encounter calculator that comes in I forget if that's in the Monster Manual or in the Dungeon Master Guide, but...
If our D&D group doesn't listen to this, they may not know that if this thing shows up, I might just run. You know, like I've read the books and know what's coming. I'm out.
You will not be metagaming in my game, Jeffrey. So this demon has a melee multi-attack, so it can attack 2 times. Each time that it hits, it does 1d6 plus 2 bludgeoning. But then you also tack on 6d6 poison damage with every hit. So it's the poison that really gets you there. So that's an average of 26 damage per hit.
Or half of my actual hit points in our D&D game.
And that's just one attack. It has multi-attack, right? So it's like...
Excellent. Love it.
So he could technically knock you out in one action. Crazy.
Oh.
So he has the ability to change into a mist, becoming immune to non-magical damage. And then if he takes up the same space as a PC, he can incapacitate them if they breathe them in, if they fail a Constitution check. Basically, just
luckily,
like knocking you out.
I can hold my breath for a very long time. Watch.
For the rest of the episode. So, as I was saying, perhaps that's what I need to challenge you guys with, because I feel like I just keep throwing stuff at you guys, and you just... some of you are getting out without getting hit one time, and I'm just like, ugh.
I feel like it's going to go from feeling very confident in our abilities to attack bad guys to being, well, we need to now find a resurrection scroll. Half the party is being dragged along. Or, we have a necromancer, so maybe they're animated and walking themselves straight to the doctor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Calic will just resurrect you guys or animate you and have you walk yourself. Yep.
I'm going to let them know that evidently, though, the Drow have a great medical plan. We're going to be just fine. We're going to go right down to Menzo Berenzen and ask them, hey, take me to the doctor. It'll go great. Swimmingly.
All right, Jeffrey, that's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you for listening, and remember that if you like the show, give us a rating on whatever platform you're listening to. We got a couple of likes on YouTube already, but it would be awesome to see those go up. So also make sure you're getting the most out of this. Make sure that you pick up a copy of the book and read along with us.
And if you can't read, then the school system has most likely failed you. But luckily, I have come prepared with backup options for you. Grab the audiobook and listen to it at your leisure. And when you've gotten through Chapter 7, make sure you cast message. Send us an email at drizztdoneright@gmail.com, where you can log on to the Discord and join in on the discussion. Got the invitation in the episode link. Remember, we would love to hear from you.
We would love to hear from you. Jeffrey, it's been a blast. Now, it's time to say goodbye.
Man, another chapter in the book. From the book?
The book.
Farewell. Play fair. Be well.
There you go. You got it.